Tom from the Village chimes in and says, I was listening to another station this morning. I'm sorry to hear that. Anyway, Tom goes on to say, someone said that they would give the preseason meaning by having the games count toward tiebreakers. I thought it was ridiculous. Surprisingly, someone liked it. What are your thoughts? I think it is ridiculous, too.
So ridiculous.
First of all, the preseason should never count toward anything in the regular season.
You have people that won't even make the team on those rosters.
Half the guys who are going to play tonight aren't going to be in the NFL this year.
Yeah, so you're going to have your playoff hopes live and die with people who aren't even going to make the league?
Like, do I want Clayton Thorsten responsible for the Eagles' playoff hopes? I mean, I didn't hate the pick when he was drafted, but doggone it, I got no faith in him, even if he was good. Like, think about years ago. Remember, well, you may not remember, when I was watching preseason games, because I'm a loser like that, when Victor Cruz went out there, had those 3 touchdown catches in a preseason game, and that wasn't the year that he was great. It was the next year he was great. Do you really want a no-name like Victor Cruz or Paul Turner for the Eagles or any of these guys really defining the outcome of your season? How many times do we see teams go 4-0 in the preseason and then have a garbage regular season?
Yeah, this is a terrible way to figure out who should be in the playoff.
Tom, I'm telling you, Tom and the Villas, whoever you were listening to, never listen to them again.
Well, someone agreed. Someone actually agreed and liked that?
Yeah, the fact that someone liked it is an embarrassment.
You can tell
I would unfriend that person.
You can tell the league is clearly starting to go where the preseason isn't even going to be a thing anymore. Yeah, we're going to make it so there's meaning behind it with people that won't even be playing for those teams. I'm out.
The problem with the preseason is that I understand teams are worried about injuries, but I think it goes beyond the injuries. I think it's the fact that you don't need to play 4 preseason games to figure out who your roster is. I think at minimum, if you want to do 2 games, 1 game for the starters to get some, kick the rust off, and then another game for other guys to earn roster spots, I'm cool with that. But coaches have told people numerous times that in today's day and age, they get more from the inter-squad scrimmages, like, when the Texans have played the Packers or the Eagles going to play the Ravens and stuff like that. They get more out of those situations than they do out of the actual games, because in those situations, they can control outcomes and situations. The fact that anybody wants to attach any value to the preseason, especially with tiebreakers, that's the most stupid thing I've heard all day today.
I was thinking this, though. If they were to change it to 2 games, I don't know if that changes anything. Because if the teams value these practices, these inter-squad practices more, and they can control the environment like you said, why would that change anything if there's 2 or 4 games?
So the reason why the 2 games, I think, in my opinion, still has value is because you can't simulate the live action of a game. You can simulate situations. You can simulate guys' understanding of the playbook, understanding of their placement on the field. But when the lights come on, some guys just will. Some guys just don't have it. How many times have we watched Hard Knocks over the years? Whether it's this year with the Raiders, last year with the Browns. So you see a guy, he's not a great practice guy, but he's a game guy.
That's like Zach Brown to me. He doesn't seem like a practice guy or a training camp guy, but when the lights come on, he'll tackle for you.
Right. If I feel like you go back in NFL history, there's a lot of guys who have made teams because they had a play or plays in a preseason game. I mentioned Victor Cruz. Another guy who was undrafted, London Fletcher, had that long career in the NFL with the Rams and the Redskins. He wasn't really considered this great, prospect, but he had a great NFL career. There's a lot of guys who they need the preseason to differentiate themselves. So I think that while you don't need 4 games, I think 2 could satisfy the needs of what the teams consider productive from the preseason.
While I agree with what you're saying, those preseason games have value for certain reasons because you're actually in the game atmosphere and whatnot. I mean, it's still the same right now for the 4 games that they're not playing. So if they're not playing now with the 4 games for the same reasons that it's valuable with 2 games, I don't see the starters playing. Like, that's not going to change the fact that Carson Wentz won't play. If there were only 2 preseason games, Carson Wentz would not play. Nigel Bradham would not play. Fletcher Cox would not play.
I think Carson Wentz is going to have some snaps in the 3rd game.
I hope you're right, even if it's just 1 or 2 series, but I don't know if that's true. And even if it is, you're telling me 2, 3, 4 snaps in 4 weeks is even much at all?
I think it's something. I think there's value to it because of the fact that you want to get the guy some reps. Repetition helps you be successful in everything in life, whether it's on the football field or in other areas of life. Like you don't want to hire a computer programmer who's never actually worked on a computer, right? You want to know that where have you worked before? If I'm gonna have you fix my computer, or if you go to an auto shop, it's nice that a guy has a certification on the wall. But just because you're A+ certified mechanic doesn't mean that I still trust you to work on my car, because how many reps have you really had under the car itself? Whereas, same thing with the quarterback. A quarterback or other players, they still need the live reps just to knock the rust off, to know that when the first game hits, that they're not deers in the headlights.
Here's the difference. That mechanic has been paid $150 million to not hurt his pointer finger. So is he going to work on 8 computers before yours with the chance of having an electrical fire or something that can burn his hand off?
I don't want to hear about the injury stuff.
Well, that's the reason why they don't play.
You can get injured walking across the street. The Eagles could die on the airplane flight down to Jacksonville or coming back. There could be some horrible tragedy. Guys could get tripping coming out of the locker room. Anything can happen.
Sure, but that's still like playing a preseason game is making the percentage
Am I not
up.
going to drive anymore just because I saw a car accident on my way into work?
Yeah, but that's totally two different things. Are you going to put yourself in a position to get it? So there's 2 roads that you can take. One, there's people who are swerving all over the place, and one, there's no one on the road. You're going to take the no one on the road spot because this puts you in a higher percentage of that accident.
But you can't take the violence out of football.
No, but you can put your quarterback who you paid so much money, you paid so much money, you can take him out of a spot to get hurt.
Let me ask you a question. If you are so confident in not playing Wentz, then why is Andy Reid playing Pat Mahomes in the preseason?
It's a good question.
Why is Aaron Rodgers playing in the preseason?
Well, here's the thing. There's no correlation. You can look at teams who play their quarterbacks, and they're just your average team, and they don't make playoffs.
But I'm not talking about
There's no
average.
correlation.
Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers. Deshaun Watson. These are guys who are going to be getting snaps in the preseason.
But does that correlate to what actually happens in the regular season? I don't think anything that happens tonight means anything 3 weeks in the regular season.
It may not, but I don't think you can discount the fact that other teams are playing their quarterbacks, and you're afraid to put Wentz out there because he might get injured?
But see, no, this isn't just the Eagles. There are plenty of teams that are not playing their starters. It's not just the Eagles. If every team but the Eagles played their starting quarterback, I'd say, okay, maybe we're playing a little scared. But this is like a league-wide thing. Every team is starting to go in this direction.
Again, I understand that. But what makes protecting Carson Wentz of a higher priority than these other quarterbacks?
Because they want him ready for week 1. They think there's more value in making sure 100% he's ready for week 1 than this 3 series in preseason week 2. That means nothing.
But what makes Doug Peterson smarter than Sean McVay or Bill Belichick?
There's nothing. I'm not saying that Doug Peterson's smarter. This is the way that they elect to do it, and I don't believe that it's the wrong one. They're making sure he's ready for the game that counts. Like, wouldn't you rather him be a little rusty in week 1 than something happen in a meaningless game? Like, you got to weigh your options. What's more important?
For example, Teddy Bridgewater barely played that preseason. His injury came on the practice field.
Yeah, it can happen anywhere.
So you're trying to prevent something from happening that could happen anywhere.
Sure, but why put him in that position where it can happen with a higher percentage? You're playing the percentage game. Not putting him out there means there's a higher percentage that he doesn't get hurt.
But is there really a higher percentage?
Yes, he's not playing a football game where he can get hit. Yes, it is a higher percentage. It's a 0% chance he gets hurt on the sideline. There's a whatever enter number here percentage that he can get hurt in the preseason game. Keep in mind, no Lane Johnson, no Jason Peters, no offense, Brandon Brooks. So I'm not putting him out there. Exactly. So that plays a big factor.
But see, that's a better argument.
Okay, fair. I do agree that that's a better argument.
To me, that's a better. If you came to me and said, "Look, I'm not putting Wentz out there because there's nobody there to block for him," that's a better argument than I'm worried he could get injured.
Okay, but I think that is one of the reasons.
And I agree. I do. But I think we overlook and we act like Wentz needs to be protected more than somebody else. When I see Pat Mahomes out there running around, scrambling, making throws.
I wouldn't put Pat Mahomes out there if I was Andy Reid.
Right, but he is.
Right. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't see the benefit. I don't see the benefit of 1 or 2 snaps in the preseason game. I don't think that there's any correlation to what happens in August to what's going to happen in October. So there's no reason, in my opinion. I wouldn't put anyone out there.
609-403-0973 is the text board. Josh Hennig, along with Hunter Brody, filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash. Again, our poll question at 973 ESPN on Twitter, at 973 ESPN. We asked you, what are you watching tonight? Phillies have a commanding lead right now as Hunter pumps his fist like he's on Jersey Shore.
That's right.
Right now, Phillies are at 62%, Eagles are at 31%, and still 7% say they're not watching either one.
That's crazy to me. What else is on tonight? Well, I guess you're going with the Netflix option, right? That's what we put out there?
Well, yeah, I put out DVR, Netflix. But here's the thing. Like, I wasn't going literally DVR, Netflix. Maybe somebody is. Maybe someone's like, look, I don't really care for either one of these teams. But, look, people, maybe they want to go to a movie. Maybe they want to go out to the boardwalk. Maybe tonight's the night that, you're celebrating something with your friends and you want to go out and have a good time, And maybe you'll notice the Phillies or Eagles on the TV, but you're not really watching. So, maybe that's where the neither falls into play.
I think it's funny that you mentioned, maybe they go to the boardwalk, because I'm from the Glassboro area, so that's not a common thing for me. But down here, it's so common, like, why don't we just go hit the boardwalk, as if that's a common, casual thing to do at night.
Well, there's a lot of people who do that.
No, and I love that. That's awesome. I'm obviously a Jersey Shore guy, but to me, that's not in my backyard, so it's never hey, you want to go out to the boardwalk tonight?
But here's the thing, when you do come down to the shore, and if you were in like a Wildwood or a Sea Isle or an Ocean City or a town that was known for their boardwalk, or Cape May with the Washington Boulevard, or a town like I'm drawing a blank now. Who else? In Avalon or Stone Harbor, you might go down to like the business district and go hang out, or go different restaurants and bars. When you go to the shore, you don't want to sit in the house. Like, if you're on vacation, you're not sitting in the house watching TV all the time. Like, you might miss a game or you might miss something because you might decide to have a life outside of the sports.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm talking more like the locals. Like, I just find it funny to think their first mindset is, I want to get out of the house. Why don't we just go take a stroll over to the boardwalk?
Well, for some people, part of the reason why they moved to the shore.
I'm jealous.
Well, part of the reason why some people move to the shore is because they can do that.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when I lived in Ocean City, I wasn't on the boardwalk, but I was within reasonable walking distance from the boardwalk. And listen, there were some nights that I was just so tired of being inside. Because when you work in radio, you're inside doors all the time. So, if you can go outside and walk down the boardwalk and just walk up and down a few blocks and walk home, it's a nice change of pace, and maybe you're not even buying anything. Maybe you're just going to sit on the promenade to, watch the ocean, just get some fresh air,
Well, I'm starting to learn the atmosphere around here. I'm trying to become a different man. I don't want to be the shooby anymore. I want to be the local, now that I'm starting to come down this way more. I need to get the shooby life out of me.
Well, I've told you before, the next time you're down in the islands area, you and I will go out, and I'll give you a taste of the shore life.
Okay, we can do that.
But it's on you to actually be down here.
I work a lot, Josh.
Like Harry Mays, he's actually going to be staying at the Jersey Shore, so him and I are going to go out somewhere. So now it's on you to actually have a night or two at the Jersey Shore for you to experience the Jersey Shore.
We can make that work.
He's Hunter Brody. I'm Josh Hennig. Sports Bash being brought to you by East Coast Roofing, Siding, and Windows, serving all of South Jersey. If you call, they'll show up online at eastcoastroofing.com. Again, you can vote on our poll at 973 ESPN on Twitter. Are you watching Eagles, Phillies, or neither? So the idea here is we're going to look back, and I got the list in front of me of all the guys who have been drafted in the drafts. And let's say we go back to... You guys will go back to like 2012 or maybe 2013, the furthest back.
We can go to 2012. We can start at 2012.
The reason why I don't want to go too far back is because you don't want to go too far back and a guy's career is already cemented.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back to 2012. That was the Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin III draft, where I always felt like there were two quarterbacks. Now, remember, I think Tannehill was in that draft. Nick Foles was in that draft.
I'll give you the quarterbacks who have started NFL games, and we can kind of go around the room about the quarterbacks that we legitimately thought they would be great, and then talk about if they were or were not great. Yeah. So we had Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin III, Ryan Tannehill, Brandon Weeden, Brock Osweiler, Russell Wilson, Nick Foles, Kirk Cousins, and then there were 3 guys who didn't play a snap in the NFL.
All right. Obviously, the first two, Luck and Griffin. Luck obviously is a guy that you could build. He's a $100 million quarterback. I'll use the 3 terms. If you're a $100 million quarterback, you're a quarterback that I believe you have superstar potential. Whether you ever amounted to it or not, I mean, I can't control the future.
Right.
But
we're talking about potential, and then we talk about
exactly
the
what
outcomes.
happened. Yeah. So Griffin, the same thing. I thought Griffin coming out was another guy that could be a $100 million man, not just because of the speed, but the accuracy at that type of
High level accuracy.
exactly high level accuracy. People forget that this guy could actually throw the football, and he wasn't just a high level athlete. And then you got Nick Foles for me as the third guy that I'm. Nick Foles was a guy that he was a late round pick. He wasn't someone who was a superstar at Arizona, yet he had something about him that coaches always loved. He was always a guy that can absorb your system and run it to a T, and I think that proved valuable, especially for the Eagles.
Yeah, I was sold on Andrew Luck. Obviously, he's a $100 million man, like you said. I was questioning RG3 just because it's a standard question that's always asked when someone's making that jump. Can the mobile quarterback work? Like, will this actually work in the league? So it wasn't that I was doubting him, but I wouldn't have said at that moment, yeah, I would put $100 million in on RG3 at the moment of the draft. Like, he was solid that 1 year. I mean, unbelievable. It's a shame he couldn't have had a couple more years like that.
So for me, when I go back in my notes, I had the quarterbacks ranked like this. Obviously, Andrew Luck number 1, because I think people all agreed on that. But my number 2 guy, and I was generally biased for this guy. I thought Russell Wilson was incredible in college, and I thought he was going to be an NFL quarterback. And I actually had him as my number 2 ranked quarterback back then. For better or for worse, I was just way too on the Russell Wilson bandwagon. And I'll be honest, I did not believe Nick Foles could ever be a great NFL quarterback, because I felt that when I looked at what Andrew Luck, RG3, and Russell Wilson did in college, all 3 of them had one thing and Nick Foles didn't. They were more accurate at throwing the football. And to me, accuracy is something that either translates or it doesn't to the NFL.
Yeah.
Like
I forgot all about Russell Wilson in that draft. I mean, he's another guy that.
Yeah. I had no faith in Nick Foles. I will 100% admit it. And I'm not trying to, act like I hate the guy or anything, because I don't. He's had a great career. Thankful he won the Eagles Super Bowl. But, when I looked at guys like Wilson, Griffin, and Luck, I thought those were franchise quarterbacks. And I looked at Nick Foles, I thought he was a career backup because I thought he had accuracy issues. I thought the fact that he transferred from Michigan State to Arizona was a demerit against him, because at the time, this was before the modern transfers. In today's world, everybody transfers. But back then, that was a big deal. Like, you're basically telling me that you couldn't beat out Kirk Cousins, so you're leaving Michigan State and going to Arizona. That made me question him.
So, I mean, looking back at how everything, transpired, Andrew Luck, I think that the injury bug has kind of really stopped from what he can become. I think he's shown a lot of flashes, and I think that he still can prove that he's worthy of that. That next guy, the next Peyton Manning level, Tom Brady level, like that guy that can be the best quarterback in the NFL for years and years. He still has a chance, but the injuries have really held him back, and the inconsistency of the Colts franchise to surround him with protection on the offensive line and weapons on the outside. Now, they've done a good job of late, but we'll see if that happens. And obviously, the RG3 story is tragic. I mean, you have a great year that first year, and then you mess up your knee, and you're just never the same again. Now, I don't think he has a chance to live up to his draft billing. It's just too late for that. But I think that he still can be a solid quarterback if he's ever a starter again in the NFL. I think his throwing ability, while he's not the athlete he used to be, can still help him in that. And Russell Wilson is proven that he is a guy that you can build around. Now, he remains to be seen, because a lot of people point to the fact that he had a great defense and a great running game when he won his Super Bowl and went back to his next one. We're yet to see what Russell Wilson can be when he's the guy that is the head of the snake. So that's the book. And then Nick Foles, I mean, his story it's in itself.
See, this is my question. You mentioned thinking that Andrew Luck, RG3, Wilson, you mentioned that you thought that they were going to be franchise quarterbacks.
Yes.
And then you apologized for not thinking Nick Foles would be a franchise. Is Nick Foles a franchise quarterback?
I'm apologizing because I didn't believe he could be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Okay, so starting quarterback,
Yeah,
not the word franchise quarterback.
I thought Nick Foles was a career backup.
Okay.
when I saw him in college.
I mean, I still think he's a career backup. I think that now that he has the opportunity to start again, I do believe that Nick Foles is one of those guys where he can get real hot. And when he's real hot,
He's in fuego.
He can make you believe that he could be a franchise quarterback. The problem with Nick Foles is the consistency of going through the everyday rigors of being a starting quarterback week in and week out. They're game planning against your weaknesses. And when you have long periods of time to game plan against Nick Foles' weaknesses, I'm sorry. I know people have a soft spot for him in Philadelphia as well as I do, but he gets exposed. And now, for that being said, this year for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think that he'll be better than I think he'll be just because you have that defense, you have that running game, you have John DeFilippo, who's kind of been his safety blanket late in his career. And don't forget,
the Jags have invested a lot of money into the offensive line.
Exactly, but the proof's in the pudding. When Nick Foles has to be the guy, injuries have become his bugaboo and also turnovers.
Let's go to the 2013 draft. I think the 2013 is arguably the worst of all these drafts we're going to talk about.
I'm not even going to mention the 2013
draft.
I'm
going to name the guys who have taken NFL snaps.
All right.
And then we'll move on to the next draft.
Yeah, because they stink.
EJ Manuel.
That was 11, my boy.
Geno Smith, Mike Glennon, Matt Barkley, Landry Jones are the only quarterbacks who took legitimate multiple NFL snaps and games in the NFL.
Wow, Chip Kelly really had a bad first year as far as picking the litter of a quarterbacks in this draft. Like everyone talked about Michael Vick's getting old, he's hurt too much. Chip Kelly needs to get his quarterback. Well, he took Matt Barkley, and you can't even get too mad about that because look at the slop of the rest of that draft. I mean, EJ Manuel, remember he got taken, 8th or 3rd or something like that? Over
he was 16th. He was the only quarterback in the first round that year.
Still was terrible. Terrible.
I honestly, when I go back through my notes, I didn't believe in any of these guys.
I didn't believe. I was on the tiny hype train of Geno Smith. Not like oh, wow, this guy's going to break the league. But I was on that tiny hype train of he might make a little noise. Yeah, like he'll make a little noise. Not anything crazy.
I was a Geno hater.
And Rex Ryan and the Jets and the Sanchez, it wasn't a good situation. Can we move on? This 2013 draft.
Yeah, that draft was bad. Bad.
So 2014... I'm going to name you the quarterbacks who have taken NFL snaps.
I think this is the Johnny Manziel draft.
Blake Bortles, Johnny Manziel, Teddy Bridgewater, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo. Remember, I'm naming quarterbacks who have taken NFL snaps. I'm not delineating how good they are before I continue this list. Logan Thomas, Aaron Murray, A.J. McCarron, Zach Mettenberger. Those are your quarterbacks for 2014.
Blake Bortles stinks.
Well, no. So what did you think of them before they were drafted?
I thought I was on the Johnny Manziel hype train. I thought that his playmaking ability, I thought that if he went to the right franchise that he could be not great, but he could be a quarterback that could make it in the league.
Thought he could be
break
good.
The stigma of small guys. I thought Johnny Manziel could be good, and I like Derek Carr. I thought he had a chance to. I wasn't really high on the other guys.
For Johnny Manziel, it's the same thing that I thought about RG3. It's just the style of play. It's can that really work in the NFL? Lamar Jackson was the only one that I looked at with that type of mobility and thought that it had a high chance. Other than that, I question every person who comes out of college with that mobile quarterback vibe. I question that coming into it. So I was the same way with Manziel, and I didn't believe in Bortles, or I didn't really even believe that much in Teddy Bridgewater either, and he surprised me.
So when I go back through my quarterback rankings, I had the quarterbacks ranked like this, and this is my personal rankings back then. I had Teddy Bridgewater, Derek Carr. I'll admit I was wrong about A.J. McCarron. and then I had Bortles. I thought Bortles was always too highly drafted. I never understood why Jacksonville reached on him. Now, in retrospect, 2020, you realize that Jacksonville had a lot of high picks that they missed on, like, Justin Blackman and all those guys. But I had a lot of faith in Teddy. I had faith in Derek Carr. I was so wrong about A.J. McCarron. And I don't know if you could say I'm really right about Teddy Bridgewater either, because that injury that he had derailed his career so much that you could argue that we may never know exactly what Teddy Bridgewater is going to be until another 5 years from now, because right now he's supposed to be the heir apparent to Drew Brees in New Orleans. And just because you're the heir apparent doesn't mean you're going to be good. So I think the jury's still out on Bridgewater. You could argue the jury's still out on Derek Carr. Before he broke his leg, he was having an MVP caliber season, and he really hasn't gotten back to that form since then. So you could argue that nobody in this draft has really lit the expectations. Jimmy Garoppolo, Carr, Bridgewater, they've all been injured. Manziel busted out of the league. Blake Bortles is still hanging around for I don't know why. Mettenberger just busted out of the league as well. So most of these guys, either injuries, also Tom Savage was in this draft, and we know how the Texans tried to shove that down our throat and make us believe that he was going to be a quarterback. That was a lousy.
Derek Carr, though, is very serviceable, though. Like, you think the jury's still out on if he can be elite? Like, he's definitely capable of starting in the NFL. Like, he's a good starter.
Yes, he's an NFL quality starting quarterback, but I think the jury is still out on if he's really worth the contract they give him. They gave him a huge contract. Now is he going to be the $100 million man? You got the money. Now you're going to be the guy worth that money. And Dashawn knows, him and I talked about this numerous times, there's a difference between your paycheck and your play.
But this is the thing, though, and it dates back to what we've kind of been arguing about for the last couple of days is the quarterback is your quarterback. You can't just have a Derek Carr, ship him to the curb, and say, you're not worth $100 million. We're going to start over. You're kind of tied with your hands behind your back if you have someone that's reasonable to start. Sadly, that's true. So you're going to get that payday if you're a starter in this league.
2015 draft, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota. Bryce Petty did get NFL snaps. Brett Hundley got NFL snaps. Trevor Siemian got NFL snaps. Dashawn, I'll start with you. How did you have the quarterbacks ranked coming in to 2015?
I had Mariota at 1. I had Winston at 2. Those were really the two guys that... and they have been very disappointing, to be honest. Jameis Winston with the off-the-field issues and then the on-the-field turnovers has left a lot to be desired. I still believe he has a chance to be good. Bruce Arians has a chance to kind of revive his career. I don't know how much I believe in it. And Mariota, while I'm not as high on him as I used to be because I just think the injuries, the same thing, the injuries have just been a bugaboo for him. But I do believe that he hasn't had the opportunity to really have, I always said this coming out, if Mariota could get an offensive guy to be his coach and kind of do the Jared Goff thing where Sean McVay comes in and just transforms his game, that could have really helped Marcus. And I just feel like that now with the Tannehill controversy too, it's just like he needs a fresh change, a change of scenery to kind of revive his career also.
I wanted Chip Kelly to do the deal. Where you would do the deal kind of guy?
I would definitely do the deal.
Yeah,
I was beating down the drum.
The deal guy, definitely.
I think it could have saved his tenure here if he'd have did it. I think Mariota was that good early on. That
I think it could have
been,
yeah.
Yeah, but what would have happened if Chip Kelly got fired for the moves that went down and then he was here without a Chip Kelly?
He wouldn't have got if.
I'll tell you what would have happened.
He wouldn't have, if he would have got Mariota, he wouldn't have got fired.
Correct. And Carson Wentz would have been a Cleveland Brown. Nick Foles would be retired preaching in Texas, and the Eagles would never have a Super Bowl.
Ew, that sounds disgusting.
I just gave you the whole outline there. Really quick, I also had Mariota, my number one quarterback in 2015. I was in love with him in college. I loved his accuracy. I loved his football acumen. I'm with Dashawn. I think that he hasn't been given the true opportunity to be as successful as he could be in Tennessee. The coaching staffs, he's on his fourth offensive coordinator at this point. Yeah. So it's a bad deal. Like I feel for him. People forget he has a postseason win. He has more postseason wins than Andy Dalton. He has more postseason wins than Deshaun Watson. He has more postseason wins than Kirk Cousins. He has more postseason wins than half the league. So he can be a winning quarterback in the NFL. The one guy in this draft that I never believed in, Jameis Winston. I was a Jameis Winston hater coming out of college. Having seen him in the NFL, I do think he still has the potential, but I don't think either one of these guys is truly a franchise quarterback at this point. I think Mariota has the potential to be if he gets with the right coach. But then again, can't we say about half the quarterbacks in the league, if they have the right coach, they can be XYZ, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned the thing with Derek Carr, and you can't just move him away. With these two quarterbacks, I actually beg to differ. Like, I could move away from both of those and be satisfied as an organization. More Winston than Mariota. It would hurt to give up on Mariota, but I could understand that situation. not so much with Derek Carr, but with these two, I would.
I will only say that I think Mariota over Winston because Mariota is a much more accurate quarterback, and I think his football IQ is better than Jameis. I think Jameis still has an immaturity issue. Now, I think that if anyone's going to salvage him and save his career, Jameis, it's Bruce Arians. But I think we all can say that if Bruce Arians can't save Jameis, he's toast.
No one can.
Yeah. Josh Hennig, Hunter Brody, Dashawn, Hendricks hanging out with you all in Sports Bash, filling in for Mike Gill. Keep the text coming at 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973 to get on the conversation right here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. How is it convenient that I only like the good ones? I didn't like all the bad ones.
He's got a point, though. I mean, a lot of the people you're picking seem to be pretty
'cause I'm right.
successful.
I know what I'm doing.
He knows what he's doing, he says.
I ain't buying that, and I'm not even going to entertain that over there. Can we continue, please,
He
so we
said
can
he
get to where
knows.
you weren't right?
Did you see the confidence in that answer? As if he should be a pro scout
Oh,
over
this
here?
this is going to be the fun part
football
because
is
this
my
draft,
sport.
I know for a fact, this was my first draft. The 2016 draft was my first draft here on this station, where I had a chance to know who said what. Now, please, Josh, read the name.
I want to see this notebook of his where he has all of his
Oh,
his
2016,
names down.
where it was Goff, Wentz, Lynch, Hackenberg, Brissett, Kessler, Cook, Prescott, Cardell Jones, Kevin Hogan, Nate Sudfeld. You mean that draft? And who was my number one quarterback?
Your number one quarterback was Carson Wentz.
Yes.
As well as my number one quarterback.
Yeah,
That was
not
Carson
Goff.
Wentz, not Goff. We both had Goff at 2.
And how much did I hate Christian Hackenberg?
A lot.
And how much did I not like Paxton Lynch?
A lot. I actually thought Paxton would be okay. I was wrong.
I
on that
hated
one.
Paxton Lynch.
But I did love Wentz, and I did say that Wentz
I was
would turn
obsessed
out to
with
be-
Wentz.
Yes. Mike Gill actually came on my show back when I was at 107.9 WRML, and we talked about Carson Wentz. And Gill was on the board of he wanted to keep Bradford. He felt like Bradford didn't get a fair shake to see what Bradford could do, and he wasn't a fan of moving up.
I'm
to
a
go get
Bradford
Wentz.
hater, too.
So I was a Wentz guy.
And by the way, who was my third quarterback in that draft?
At least he was on.
2017 NFL Draft. Here are the quarterbacks who have taken snaps in the NFL. Mitchell Trubisky, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Deshaun Kaiser, C.J. Beathard, Josh Dobbs, Nathan Peterman.
My number one quarterback in that one was Deshaun Watson. And it's not like I'm far off because I would put him number 2 after Pat Mahomes, of course. But that was my number 1 going into it.
Yeah, this is something Deshaun and I were on the air talking about. Him and I were 100% on the Watson train coming out of college.
Who was
And
my number 2, though, Josh?
Your number 2 was, I believe, Mahomes, was it not?
Yes.
Yeah, as was mine. And I am still known as a Trubisky hater, by the way, but we'll get to that in a minute. And I think the reason why the three of us were all on the Watson train wasn't just because he won a national championship. That's the cheap reason. I think we all saw what Dabo Sweeney called the it factor. Watson has it. He has the playing ability, yes, but he also has the intangibles that everybody desires in the quarterback as well, right, D?
Yeah, I mean, Watson had that winning mentality from day one.
Yeah, and I always questioned the mobile quarterback thing, but he did have it, and he's solid. He is a true leader. Like, I really believe that he could rally his teammates. When he's in the huddle, people truly believe what they are saying, and I love it. I love the fact that he's doing really well in this league.
Yeah, I have Mahomes. Me and Deshaun both have Mahomes at number 2. And my biggest issue with Mahomes was his footwork, which is something he's worked a lot on. He's gotten much better at. But coming out of college, you go back and watch the film, he was tripping over himself sometimes.
Footwork, he could be all over the place and sling it over his head or behind his back. He could kick it. It don't matter. It's going right into the breadbasket. He doesn't even need footwork.
But he wasn't always that accurate in college. And I think that you have to give Andy Reid and that coaching staff a lot of credit because they sat, and Alex Smith too. Alex Smith worked one-on-one with him. He walked into the perfect situation. And to this day, I still say that the Bears are going to regret trading up one spot for Mitchell Trubisky because you have Mahomes and Watson, I think, are $100 million franchise-level quarterbacks, and Trubisky went ahead of both of them, and I don't think he's on their level.
Yeah, you can argue that Mitch Trubisky's in the same conversation of the Mariota. Like, what is he? He's too good to just pass up on, but at the same time, does he have it? We talk about Deshaun Watson's it factor. If Trubisky's in the huddle and he's got his men around him, do you think that he has the same qualities as someone like Deshaun Watson does? No. I don't.
If you ask me if I got to trust a guy, I don't trust Trubisky.
I don't trust them either. They're successful because they have a solid defense. A really solid defense.
They have a great defense, but I think also you have to
Gotta
give
be
Matt
fair, though.
Nagy
Trubisky's
credit.
only had really 2 seasons.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking. I'm not going to say he's not worthy of anything. Like I said, he's in that question mark where he's good enough, but what is he actually?
Is there a guy in this class, Dashawn, that you like that we haven't mentioned yet that you feel like didn't work out or still has a chance to work out or something like that?
No.
What? Peterman's with the Raiders. John Gruden can turn him
get
around.
outta here.
I'm just basing
I
myself on Hard
hated
Knocks.
Peterman in college.
I'm
I
basing
hated
it-
Peterman in the NFL.
It's sarcasm.
The guy was the
Please continue.
It's sarcasm.
Continue.
Peterman threw interceptions at Pittsburgh. He threw interceptions at Buffalo, and now he's in Oakland. And I'm supposed to believe that John Gruden, Mr. Quarterback Collector, is going to make him something. Get out of here with that.
I mean, he might
garbage.
make the team. Did you see Mike
God.
Glennon play last week?
Mike Glennon's garbage too.
You guys are taking this way too far. It was a joke based off of Hard Knocks. You don't think I really believe that Nathan Peterman's going to turn into some stud, do you?
You don't want to brought his name up.
Yes. Did you watch Hard Knocks episode 2?
Yes, I watched
Hard.
Hard Knocks episode 2.
Yeah, he
I also
stinks.
watched the game he played in.
Yeah, and stop. I was watching the Little League games.
Of course you were. So the other guy that we didn't mention that I liked in this draft coming in, and I'm probably going to be proven wrong about this guy, is Josh Dobbs. I liked Dobbs in college because he's a smart dude. He had a high IQ. He had a high, he had an engineering degree, basically. And I thought he'd come into Tennessee and turn himself into the next Ben Roethlisberger. And instead, he's struggling to keep a roster spot.
Yeah, he stinks.
So I was wrong about it.
That's all I got for
now
you.
we're approaching year of the quarterback, where the 5 jewels were drafted in the first round. This was supposed to be the
The best
rival
quarterback draft.
Yeah, since what,
Although-
1980? What was it?
83.
83. Yeah.
I don't know if I'll go 5 jewels. You're going 5?
Well, there were 5 top prospects.
I
Okay.
thought it was 4 jewels. I always thought the 5th one was a little murky, and we all know who I'm talking about. That guy that now plays in Miami. I always thought that
Dashawn was always
fluke.
down on Josh Rosen. I was always down on Josh Allen. For me, I didn't like Allen because of his accuracy issues. Dashawn doesn't like Rosen because he's injury prone. He doesn't like his mannerisms, and Dashawn has always felt like Rosen's overrated.
Yeah.
Oh, I can agree with that. Sam Darnold to me was like the safe pick. And then Baker Mayfield was probably the best talent, but his off-the-field issues and the way that he carries himself was always a question mark.
I never liked that
his
off the
size
field
hurt
thing because
too.
Baker never actually got in trouble.
No, but he grabs things that he probably shouldn't have on the sidelines
But see, I
and
like
stuff
that.
like that. Yeah, sure, but NFL people don't.
Well, I do.
Okay, well,
well,
that's fine,
well,
but you're not in the NFL
Let me clarify.
system.
Here was my top 5. I had Jackson at 1. Not because I didn't think never thought he was the best quarterback then. I thought that his potential,
He had the highest ceiling.
exactly, like if he'd have developed as a passer, watch out. Baker was 2 just because the accuracy, the leadership, and just the gamesman. Like if he loves to compete.
Yeah.
Like that was, and I had Allen at 3. I thought that Allen's arm was an NFL arm. I thought that his biggest problem was, and his size was great. I thought that his biggest thing was, can he be coached out of the bad habits? And then I had Darnold. I thought he was a USC guy. He kind of didn't have that same flair as he did as a sophomore. USC quarterbacks really don't play well in the NFL unless your name is Carson Palmer, and even then, I didn't think that that was all that.
40,000
And then I
passing
had
yards.
Josh Rosen. I mean, I'm not talking to you. And I mean, Josh Rosen was a total bust to me. I thought that he was going to be a bust, and I've been proven right so far. If you want to go after one season, I think that Darnold is clearly better than Allen right now, and I think that Baker is clearly better than Lamar right now. But I do think that there's a lot to be written, and I think all 4 of those guys will have successful careers.
I had more hope in Rudolph than I did Josh Rosen. And not that I was proven
Mason
right.
Rudolph?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's not saying that I thought he was going to be special, but I was just saying that's how much I didn't think Josh Rosen would turn out to be
I
anything.
wasn't a Josh Rosen guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
my
neither.
rankings were Darnold, Josh Rosen. And so far, I've been wrong about Rosen, but there's still time to tell. I had Mayfield 3, Jackson 4, and Allen 5. And I thought Allen was far behind the other 4. And look, like Dashawn said, time can still tell about how these guys are going to be. But I think that we all agree that Baker's a franchise quarterback, Darnold's a franchise quarterback, and Lamar's a franchise quarterback. After those three, I don't think that there's much dispute about where Allen and Rosen stand, because both of them still have a lot of questions to be said about them. So, but you know what? Time will tell about these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And Josh Allen is interesting because he's all over the place. He's hurdling people, and he's also on a squad like Buffalo where they're sort of a dumpster fire. So it's so hard to tell what he really is, but he has flashy moments. There's no denying that. He intrigues me.
609-403-0973. 609-403-0973 is the text word to get on the conversation.